Hey guys, welcome back. Did you ever wonder what happened to Master Chief between being stranded in space with Cortana and the elusive Dustin Echoes, and him telling that to the Covenant? Well, today we are going to answer that question by diving into one of the first books your boy ever read, Halo First Strike. If you want to listen to First Strike for free, then boy, do I have a proposition for you. I apologise for that accent. Sign up for an Audible free trial using audibletrial.com/hiddenxperia, and you can claim the audiobook version of First Strike to keep forever for absolutely nothing. Even if you cancel your free trial by the end of the month so you aren't charged a dime. And at the same time, you also help out your boy big time. Considering Luke the Notable isn't doing Audible shoutouts anymore, somebody in the Halo community has to pick up the Audible mantle of responsibility, right? Anyways, let's get on with the video. So, despite what Halo Combat Evolved makes you believe, Chief's situation at the end of the game isn't all sunshine and roses. Despite it looking like he'd escaped to safety on the longsword, he was still stranded and with limited oxygen, food and water that would last only a few hours. To cut it short, he was in a bit of a pickle. After conducting multiple area scans to no avail, Cortana finally picked up a signal from a Covenant cruiser on the other side of Basis, the moon of Threshold, which was the planet that Alpha Halo was located at. As the two moved closer to the cruiser, the rest of its fleet appeared complete with its flagship, and as they got closer, Cortana's low-level scanners picked up a signal from what appeared to be a set of cryotubes from the Pillar of Autumn. Chief put his helmet back on, resealed his armor so that it was fit for EVA, and had Cortana vent the atmosphere within the ship to provide it with enough propulsion to reach the tubes, without powering it up so the Covenant fleet wouldn't be alerted by its presence. In doing so, he also gave the ship a tiny bit more power, which allowed Cortana to conduct a scan powerful enough to pick up a friendly pelican among Alpha Halo's debris. After just managing to get the cryopods inside the longsword, Chief and Cortana began to assess the pelican. Now, from what they could tell by the scan, it seemed to have either crashed on a piece of the Halo's debris or had parked on it. As the two were assessing it, and also the cryopods, one of which contained the unconscious body of Linda 058, the Covenant cruisers began targeting the longsword, likely due to the extra power that Chief gave it. As the cruisers ready to fire, the Pelican sprung into action and fired missiles at it to distract it, allowing Chief to begin a counterattack on the ship's plasma turrets using the longsword's main gun and missiles. Cortana then took control of the ship, flying it directly into the Halo's debris field for safety, while Chief conducted another scan before making contact with the Pelican. It turned out that on board was Naval Air Squadron Warrant Officer Sheila Pulaski, an ODST called Locklear, an ONI Lieutenant named Elias Haverson, and the one, the only, Sergeant Avery Johnson. Over the comms, Chief set a nav point for the two ships to meet, and considering where he'd set it, he had a pretty damn crazy plan to get there. The nav point was placed above the fleet's flagship, and the plan was for Pulaski to create a system link between the longsword and the Pelican, which would allow Cortana to control both at the same time, and then slingshot the two ships around the moon's orbit, in doing so dodging the fleet's cannons, and with just a little bit of luck, arriving safely at their destination. As the slingshot procedure begun, Chief opened the hatch that connected the two ships, and the first person that he saw shocked him, Sergeant Johnson. The last Chief saw of Johnson was the footage of him and his squad being overwhelmed by the flood from Private Jenkins' helmet cam, and given that he never found any of the squad's bodies in the facility and never saw Johnson after that, he just assumed that Johnson had been infected by the flood like the rest of his platoon. But, alas, he underestimated our friendly neighbourhood Leatherneck. However, just to be sure, he had Cortana conduct a reading of his biomonitors, just to make sure that he wasn't infected, and lo and behold, somehow, he was clean, to Chief's amazement. With that out of the way, the makeshift squad discussed their next plan of action. They were a long way from UNSC chartered space, and their only way back was with a slipspace drive, something they didn't have, but something the Covenant cruisers nearby did. This meant that the only way forward was to commandeer one of the Covey ships, which did seem like a mammoth task at the time, but considering Chief and Johnson were reunited, it really wasn't. The cruiser they ended up capturing was the Ascendant Justice, which they then used to return to Reach instead of Earth, as returning to Earth was way too risky given the possibility of the Covenant just tracking the Justice, and therefore finding the coordinates for Earth. On Reach, they reunited with the remaining members of Blue Team and Halsey, who were hiding below Castle Base, and in the meantime, the Justice was linked with the UNSC Gettysburg to create a sort of hybrid frigate cruiser. With this new ship, the crew jumped through a portal above Reach to an asteroid belt that was previously controlled by rebels for repairs, but they were followed by the Covenant's forces still stationed at Reach. This meant that they had to escape once again, but this time, they discovered something that would change the entire war. The Covenant repair station, Unyielding Hierophant, that was preparing one of the largest Covenant fleets ever encountered for the invasion of Earth. An invasion that would have almost certainly spelled the doom of humanity. The team's next plan of action was clear. The Unyielding Hierophant and the fleet it was servicing had discovered the coordinates of Earth, and thus, it had to be destroyed. The present Spartans, Chief, Linda, Fred, Willow 43 and Graco 93 boarded the Hierophant and fought their way through the station until they reached the ship's generators. On the way, Grace was torn in half by a brute shot, and after sabotaging the generators and carrying out their escape, Chief activated her suit's self-destruction protocol, ensuring that Mjolnir technology wouldn't fall into enemy hands. It was during their escape that Linda would display her true skill with a sniper rifle. The squad was suppressed by Banshees, but Linda managed to take them out by hanging upside down on a cable angled in such a way that the light from the sun wouldn't reflect off her armor, rendering her invisible, and proceeded to snipe 7 pilots out of their Banshees. At this point, Linda had all but accepted her fate to ensure that Chief, Fred and Will made it off the station safely, but Chief refused to let her stay behind and eventually picked her up, and the squad made it back to the Ascendant Gettysburg, the 2 ships of which had now been decoupled. Admiral Whitcomb, who was piloting the Ascendant Justice, baited the Covenant in by telling them that a highly coveted foreigner crystal was on board, when in fact it was merely a hologram, which prevented them from firing on the ship. Using this power, he steered the Ascendant Justice directly into the Hierophant, after ordering Chief to return to Earth and warned them that the planet's coordinates were compromised. The Justice colliding with the Hierophant caused its fusion reactor to explode, destroying close to 500 of the ships in the fleet that had planned to invade Earth, and putting a temporary halt on the Covenant's invasion of Earth, undoubtedly saving the most important planet in human space, and also humanity itself from total annihilation by the Covenant. What little remained of the fleet was used when Regret tried to invade Earth, but as we know, that all went pear-shaped, and when the Spartans got back to Earth, Fred and Linda were debriefed by Oni on board Borneo Station, and Chief received his unquestionably iconic Mark 6 Mjolnir armor. And I'm pretty sure that the rest is history. So, there you go. That's what happened to Chief between Halo CE and Halo 2. In short, a metric shit-ton happened that was only ever explained in a book, albeit a pretty damn good book. Fred, Linda and Will then ended up going to Onyx with Halsey, Mendez and a few others, where Will was killed by hunters, and Johnson, well, sadly we still all know what happened to Johnson. Can I get an F in the comments please, boys? It's still sore, it still hurts. Anyways, let's not leave the video on a sad note. Thank you so much for watching, guys. You seem to enjoy the video that I made a while ago about what happened to Chief between Halo 2 and Halo 3. Fucking Jackal snipers. So I felt like it was sort of a no-brainer to do the same thing for his whereabouts between Halo CE and Halo 2, so I hope it was worth the long wait. I want to give the usual thank you to everybody that supports me over on Patreon: Ardent, Tomahawk, Momo, Shikata, Mjolnir, Matthew, Pierre, Tony, Jim, Theo, Michael, Jack Madden, Eric Brown, Sam Grafton, Bruin98, Hayden Woods, Matthew Brown, Gareth Davies, Renegade Ginger, and fwimmygoat. Thank you so much for watching, guys, I really appreciate it, and I'll catch you in the next one.